Good morning, everyone. Today we will see other wired networks. So basically, we will see telephonic network. We will see cable network. We will see about detailing of SONET, and we will see about ATM. So let us first discuss about telephone network. So the telephone network had its beginning in the late 1800s. The entire network was originally an analog system using analog signals to transmit voice only. So, with the advent of the computer era, the network in 1980s began to carry data in addition to voice signal. So, during the last decade, the telephone network had undergone many technical changes. So, the network is now digital as well as analog. The telephone network is made up of three major components. One is local loops, another one is trunks, and the third one is switching offices. So the telephone network has several level of switching offices such as AND offices, tandem offices, and regional offices. So in this figure, you can see that your telephones are there. They are connected with the AND offices through local loops. And those AND offices are connected with tandem offices through trunks. And through trunks only, they are those tandem offices, they are connected with regional offices. So this is the architecture of telephone system. So now we'll discuss about local access transport areas, which in short we are calling as LATA. So after 1984, the United States and India was divided into more than 200 LATAs. So the number of LATAs has increased since then. A LATA can be a small or large metropolitan area. A small state may have a single LATA. A large state may have several LATAs. A LATA's boundary may overlap the boundary of a state. Part of a LATA can be in one state or part in other state. So this is the case of LATA. Like various telephones are there. Those are basically local loops and they are connected with AND offices, and those AND offices are connected with tandem offices. Okay. So whatever AND devices and AND offices are there, they are connected with tandem offices, and those tandem offices they are connected with point of presence. With the point of presence, they are connected with tall offices, various tall offices, depending upon which network they are using. So suppose this LATA is using network A and network B, so it is connected with two point of presence. So one point of presence is connected with network A, second point of presence is connected with network B, and those are connected with other LATAs, and these LATAs can be able to communicate in these two networks, and for these two networks they having the different tall offices. So this is tall office A, tall office B. Okay, this is tall office B, this is tall office B. So tall office A is connected through network A, tall office B are connected with network B. So the telephone network at its beginning uses a circuit switching network, which we already seen. So this circuit switching network with dedicated link to transfer voice communication only. So initially what happened? The operator connect two parties by joining the wire with two plugs inserted into a corresponding two jacks. Later, the signaling system became automatic. Rotatory telephones were invented that send a digital signal defining each digit in a multi-digit telephone number. So as telephone network evolved into a complex network, the functionality of the signaling system increased. The signaling system was required to perform other tasks also. So this is one example of data transfer and signaling network. So basically your telephones are there, they are connected with single point. Okay, so at those single points, data transfer as well as voice communication will be there. So those single points are connected with signal transfer points, and those signal transfer points are basically connected with a database and service control points. So those service control points and database, they are actually helping those telephones to connect with the destination telephone. Signaling system number 7, in short we are calling it as SS7, is a set of telephony signaling protocol developed in 1975, which is used to set up and tear down telephone calls in most part of the world public switching telephone network. So basically, if I see the layered architecture, so upper layer having three things. One is TCAP, another one is TUP, and SCCP. So this TCAP means transaction capabilities application port. SCCP means signaling connection control point, and TUP means telephone user port. So they are basically the part of upper layer, and then we have three more layer, that is network layer, data link layer, and physical layer. So basically network, data link, and physical layer, they are basically message transfer part. So message transfer part level 3 will be there at network layer, level 2 will be there at data link layer, and level 1 will be there at physical layer. So telephone companies provide two types of services mainly. One is analog, another one is digital. So traditional telephone lines can carry a frequency between 300 to 3300 Hz, and in this frequency range they are transferring both digital and analog. So 300 to 3300 gives you a bandwidth of 3000 Hz. These dial-up services use a modem to send data through telephone lines. The term modem is a composite word that refers to the two functionalities that make up the device, a signal modulator and a signal demodulator. So basically, if I talk about bandwidth of a telephone line, so bandwidth will start from 300 to 3300, and from 300 to 3300, that is total bandwidth is 3000 hertz, and that is used for voice communication. In that bandwidth only, from 600 hertz to 3000 hertz, we are using for data communication. So for data, the bandwidth is 2400 hertz. Now we will discuss the traditional modulation and demodulation. So whenever you suppose there are two AND devices, that is A and B, so A will create some signal in form of digital, and those modem will actually modulate that one and send to telephone companies, and those telephone companies then transfer that one to another modem depending upon their database, that where it is connected. Okay, it will find out the best route and send or transfer it to another modem. That modem will again act as a demodulator and demodulate the modulated signal into the digital signal back, and will be received by B. The same thing will happen if B is transferring signal. So if B is transferring signal, this modem will modulate and send it to telephone companies. Telephone companies will decide, or their routers will decide, that which route the signal need to follow, and finally it will reach to the destination modem, and destination modem will basically demodulate that one, and the destination node will accept that one in the form of digital signal. Now we will discuss about dial-up network to provide internet access. So in dial-up network, basically your end devices are there which create data in the form of digital world, and it is connected with modem, and that modem is connected with an analog to digital converter. So basically modem is sending analog signal to the converter, and that link is known as dial-up connection. So from modem to converter, whatever link is there, that link is known as dial-up connection, and that one is local loop. So after reaching to converter, the analog signal will be converted into digital one, and then your telephone network will be there, internet service provider will be there, and various routers are there. Through various routers and with the help of that internet service provider, your system will be able to reach to the internet, or internet in other words to the other devices. The most important thing in this dial-up network is uploading and downloading speed. So because meanwhile from modem to converter you are using an analog medium, that is dial-up connection. So uploading speed will be 33.6 kbps and downloading speed will be 56 kbps. So after dial-up network or after traditional modems reached their peak data rate, telephone companies developed another technology that is known as DSL. The full form of DSL is Digital Subscriber Line. This DSL subscriber line is used to provide high-speed access to the internet. Digital subscriber line technology is one of the most promising for supporting high-speed digital communication over the existing telephone. So DSL technology is a set of technology, each differing in first letter. So four DSL technologies are developed, which are basically ADSL, that is asymmetric digital subscriber line. One is VDSL, that is very high speed digital subscriber line. The third one is HDSL, that is high bitrate digital subscriber line. And the last one is HDSL, that is symmetric digital subscriber line. So HDSL, that is symmetric digital subscriber line, is a digital subscriber line that transmits digital data over the copper wire of the telephone network, where the bandwidth in the downstream direction from the network to the subscriber is identical to the bandwidth in the upstream direction from the subscriber to the network. HDSL, that is high bitrate digital subscriber line, is a telecommunication protocol standard developed in 1994, and it was first digital subscriber line technology to use a high frequency spectrum over copper and twisted pair cables. VDSL, that is very high speed digital subscriber line, are digital subscriber line technologies providing data transmission faster than asymmetric digital subscriber line. The asymmetric digital subscriber line we will discuss in detail is a type of digital subscriber line technology, a data communication technology that enables faster data transmission over copper telephone lines than a conventional voice band modem can provide. So here you can see in this figure of a SDL point-to-point network that you have telephone also and you have one PC also, and you need to use the same link for both voice and data communication. So there will be a splitter. With the use of that splitter, your telephone line is connected directly
in SDL technology. And one wire will go to asymmetric DSL modem, and that is connected to your computer or the device which is using data, and that splitter is connected with digital subscriber line access multiplexer, that in short DSLAM, with a point-to-point wide area network. And since it is a multiplexer, it is multiplexing the data from the internet, and for the voice it is using the existing telephone network, existing traditional telephone network. So basically for voice you are using 0 to 4 kilohertz. 4 to 26 kilohertz is not used, and 26 to 108 kilohertz is used for upstreaming of data. From 108 to 138 we are not using. From 138 to 1104 kilohertz we are using for downstream. So this is the overall layout of asymmetric SDA. Now, after discussing the telephone communication or telephonic communication, we will go for cable network.
So basically, cable network become popular with the people who just wanted a better signal. In addition, cable network enables access to remote broadcasting stations via microwave connection. A cable TV also found a good market in internet access provision using some of the channel originally designed for videos. So cable TV started in dis- distribute broadcast video signals to locations with poor or no reception in late 1940s. At that time, it was called community antenna television, that is CATV, because an antenna is there at the top of the hill, tall hill or a tall building, which receives signal from the TV station and distribute them via coaxial cable to the community or to the people. So the block diagram will look like this one. So whatever, if the tall building is there inside that locality, so the antenna will be there at the top of that tall building. Or if any hill is there, so whatever be the highest one, so antenna will be there on the top of that one. And it is receiving signals from TV stations, and through coaxial cables it is transmitted to all the local people or all the nearby locations. Now after cable TV, HFC network will came into picture. So the second generation of cable network is called as a hybrid fiber coaxial network, that is HFC network. The network uses a combination of fiber optics and coaxial cable. The transmission medium for the cable TV office to a box called as fiber node is an optical fiber. From the fiber node through the neighborhood and into the house is still coaxial cable. So here in this block diagram, you can see that on the top of any building, any highest building or hill, one antenna is there. That is, that area is known as RCH, regional cable head. Then distributed hub will be there that will distribute through optical fiber, and we are using switches and fiber node. And then at the end, bottom neck will be coaxial fiber to distribute signals to the community people. This cable TV is also used for data transfer. So cable companies are now competing with telephone companies for the residential customer who want high speed data transfer. This DSL technology provides high data rate connections for residential subscriber over the local loop. However, DSL used the existing unshielded twisted pair cable, which is very susceptible to interference. This imposes an upper limit on the data rate. The solution is the use of the cable TV network. So cable TV or coaxial cable TV uses 5 to 42 megahertz for upstreaming of data, 54 to 550 megahertz for video band, and 550 megahertz to 750 megahertz for downstreaming, data downstreaming. So cable modem transmission system will look like this. So customer premises will be there. So inside customer premises, some end node will be there, and those end node may be categorized into two category. One is for single direction receiving of data, that is your TB. One is for multi-direction, whether it is for transmission and receiving of data. For an example, your laptop or computer. So they are connected via point-to-point network to one central office, and through that central office, it is connected to outside world or such other systems. That is called as internet. So this is what happened in cable transmission. Now we will discuss another important topic, that is SONET. So in this section, we introduce a wide area network, SONET, that is used as a transport network to carry load from other wide area networks. So we will go for discussion of SONET as a protocol first, and then we will show how SONET network can be constructed from a standard defined in the protocols. So let us first introduce the architecture of SONET. Basically, systems in which signals, devices, and connections will be there. So before going into deep, SONET, the full form of SONET is synchronous optical network or synchronous optical networking. It is a standardized digital communication protocol that synchronously transfers multiple data streams over a long distance through optical fiber cable. It is a physical layer specification that allows simultaneous transmission of voice as well as data as well as video at the high speed around 1 Gbps through a single fiber. In telephone networks, it is used for transmission of huge amount of telephone calls and data streams through fiber. SONET was standardized by the American National Standard Institute, that is ANSI. It is equivalent to synchronous digital hierarchy, that is SDH, standardized by the International Telecommunication Union, that is ITU. So this SONET network we can classify as various synchronous transport signal, that is STS. So STS 1, 3, 9, 12, 18, 24, 36, 48, 96, 192 are there. And for different STS synchronous transport signal, optical carriers will be different and data rate will be different. And the last column is representing their corresponding synchronous transport module level. Synchronous transport module we are representing with STM. The architecture of a simple networking using SONET equipment will look like this. So some end nodes are there at both the sides. Synchronous transport signal multiplexer and demultiplexer will be there on the both sides. And depending upon the distance of these nodes, the repeaters are there in between. And if suppose we want to add or drop anything, any wavelength. So add and drop multiplexer, that is ADM, will be there in between. So the SONET standard include four functional layers. Those four functional layers are the photonic, the section, the line, and the path layer. They correspond to physical and data link layers of OSI model. So when we compare our OSI model, so data link layer will correspond to path, line, and section layers, and physical layer will be photonic layer. Each synchronous transfer signal STS is composed of 8,000 frames. Each frame is a two-dimensional matrix of bytes with 9 rows by 90 cross n columns. For an example, an STS1 which we have discussed having 9 rows by 90 columns. If you multiply, it is 810 bytes. The STS3 is a 9 rows by 270 column, that is 2430 bytes. So device layer relationship in SONET will look like this one. So you have STS multiplexer already discussed, STS demultiplexer, AND nodes, regenerators, and add drop multiplexers. So basically those regenerators are having two layers, that is photonic layer and section layer. Those add drop multiplexer are having three layers, that is photonic layer, section layer, and line layer. So basically from your node, the electrical signal will follow path layer, then line layer, then section layer, then photonic layer. Then optical signal will be transmitted from AND node to this regenerator. At regenerator, it will go to photonic, then section, then again photonic. At add drop multiplexer, it will go to photonic, section, line, then section, then photonic. At regenerator, again two layers will be followed. And at the receiver node, it will go through photonic, then section, then line, then path. So this looks like similar to your OSI model implementation, but the name of the layer and their significance will change. So now we will see STS1 frame. So STS1 frame in two-dimension matrix will look like 9 bytes cross 90 bytes. STS-N frame will look like 9 bytes cross 90 into n bytes. So previously we have seen STS3 also, that is 9 cross 90 into 3. So STS1 frame in transmission will look like the first byte will be counted at the left top. The last byte of that matrix will be counted at right bottom. So this is your last byte, this is your first byte, and the sequence will go from here to here. Okay, so the first byte will be this, and the second byte will be this, and so on, and so on, and so on, till this last byte. And in the same manner, your frames will be transmitted. So first this frame will be transmitted, then this frame will be transmitted, then this frame will be transmitted. And frame transmission will be 8,000 frames per second. Now we will discuss about SONET frame. So the basic SONET frame comprises of a block of 810 bytes, which we have already seen. The frame are transmitted at the rate of 8,000 frames per byte, which is sampling rate of a telephone network. A SONET frame is represented as a rectangular block in this diagram. So here you can see section overhead is there, line overhead is there, and then your user data and path overhead is there. So basically 9 rows will be there on the vertical side and 90 octets per rows will be there on the horizontal side. So if I remove section overhead and line overhead, the whole matrix will be of 9 rows into 87 columns.
So if I discuss in detail about section overhead, so the first three columns that is representing a section overhead, first three column and first three rows. Section overhead will look like this, where A1, A2, C1, B1, E1, F1, D1, D2, D3 having their own significance, like A1, A2 is the alignment one, B1 is the parity one, C1 is the identification one, D1, D2, D3 are the management one, E1 is the order wire byte, F1 is the user byte. And if I discuss in detail about line overhead, so line overhead will look like this, where all the notations having their own significance, which is written on the top. So in this way, we can classify section or line overhead. Another is path overhead, and path overhead is there on the first column of the starting from the data one, and they having J1, B3, C2, G1, F2, H4, Z3, Z4, and Z5. So like J1 is your path tree byte, B3 is your path parity byte, C2 is your path signal level byte, F2 is your path user channel byte, and Z are your growth bytes. So these are the overheads of your SONET network. So this diagram shows the offsetting of SP related to frame boundaries. So your data SP is there. So if frame flow will be there, so frame flow will be like frame I plus 1 will be there, then frame I will be there. And during transmission of frame I plus 1, the line overhead will go like this one and then this one for the frame I. In SONET, frame of lower rate can be synchronously time division multiplied into a higher rate frames. For example, 3 STS1 signals can be combined into STS3. 4 STS3 can be multiplied into 1 STS12 and so on. So this is the diagram indicating the multiplexing, and with the multiplexing I can convert STS1 into STS3 if I use 3 STS1. Now we'll talk about byte interleaving. So byte interleaving as defined in SONET is a procedure for interlacing the individual bytes of a signal such that each component signal is visible with the combined signal. This eliminates the necessity for complete demultiplexing of an STS-N signal. That's why in this case you are seeing that S3, STS1 they are multiplexed and resulting into STS3. So if we use byte interleaving in this manner, so it will eliminate the necessity for complete demultiplexing of an STS3 in order to access single STS1. And after byte interleaving, your STS3 frame after multiplexing of 3 STS1 will look like this one. So all these colors, different colors, are denoting that 3 STS1 they are combined with byte interleaving, and the resultant multiplexed one is STS3.
So this is the case with the use of interleaving for adding and dropping frames in add-drop multiplexer. Using SONET equipment, we can create a SONET network that can be used as a high-speed backbone carrying loads from other networks such as ATM or IP. We can roughly divide SONET network into three categories, that is linear, ring, and mesh network. So if I talk about linear networks can be subdivided into point to point and multi-point. Ring network can be subdivided into UPSR and BLSR, and then mesh network. So point to point SONET network will look like this. So a center will be there, an STS multiplexer will be there, repeaters will be there, demultiplexers will be there, and receivers will be there. A linear point to point network with the interference of one other node using an add-drop multiplexer will look like this. So meanwhile, during transmission, after multiplexer, one add-drop multiplexer will be there, which will add the corresponding useful signal from the T2 or from the node and drop the signal for that node. Another technique is automatic production switching in linear networks. So basically in automatic production switching, we take one production line in parallel with one working line. So this is 1 plus 1 APS. APS means automatic production switching. 1 to 1, 1 to 1 or point to point linear network can also have automatic production switching and a reserve line. This is one to many, and these are your multiplexers, ADMs, and this is your reserve line, this is your production line. So an ring can be unidirectional or bidirectional. So unidirectional means at one side this transmission will work as a working ring and other side will work as a production ring. If it is a bidirectional switching ring, then two cables will be there, and both of these cable will work as a working ring, one for transmission, another for receiving. And similarly, two cables are there for production ring, and one will work for the production ring of transmission, one will use for production ring as a receiver side. So combination of rings can also be used. So here you can see that site ring, local or metro ring, and regional links will be there. And these rings in combination will also create a SONET network. Similarly, a mesh SONET network will also be there. So in this mesh SONET network, cross connect or switches will be there to connect all the nodes with each other. So these types of things will be there. SONET is designed to carry broadband payloads. To make SONET backward compatible with the current hierarchy, its frame design includes a system of virtual tributaries. These virtual tributaries is a partial payload that can be inserted into an STS1 and combined with other partial payloads to fill out the frames. Instead of using all 86 payload column of an STS1 frame for the data from one source, we can subdivide the SP and call each component a VT, that is virtual tributaries. So this is the overall matrix subdivision of virtual tributaries, and these are the types like virtual tributaries VT 1.5, 2, 3, 6, and these are the rates, number of columns, number of rows of those four categories. Now after discussing about synchronous optical network, that is SONET, now we will discuss asynchronous transfer mode, that is ATM. So asynchronous transfer mode is a switched wide area network based on the call relay protocol designed by the ATM forum and adopted by ITU-T. The combination of ATM and SONET will allow high-speed interconnection of all the world network. In fact, ATM can be though of as a highway of the information superhighway. So among all the challenges faced by the designers of ATM, six are the most important challenges. The first one is the need for a transmission system to optimize the use of high data rate. Second one is the system must interface with existing system. That is very important. The design must be implemented inexpensively. The new system must be able to work with and support the existing hierarchies. The new system must be connection oriented. So before we discuss the solutions to these design requirements, it is useful to examine some of the problems associated with the existing systems. So multiplexing using different frame size. This is one problem. So which we can see here, like if I have X with a very large frame and in one channel and in other channel we have a small frame, very difficult to multiplex. And if I do multiplexing will look like this. And multiplexing using cells will be like this. So first X will be there from one channel, then A will be there, then Y will be there, then B will be there, then Z will be there and C will be there. But ATM multiplexing will look like this. So if you have a frame in first channel and frame in last channel, third channel, and there is no frame in second channel, so first channel and last channel will multiplex. Then let's say at second instant of time you have frames in all the channels, so all the channels will multiplex and so on. Okay, so in this way, if suppose any channel is not in use, that will be not multiplexed after multiplexing. That is known as ATM multiplexing. So ATM is a cell switch network. The user access devices called the endpoints are connected through a user to network interface, that is UNI, to a switches inside the network. The switches are connected through network to network interface. So which is there in this figure, that and some endpoints are there and they are connected via switches. So here you can see that under TP, that is transmission path, some VPs are there, that is virtual path. And under those VPs, some VCs are there, that is virtual circuits. So this virtual connection identifier in UNI and NNI, in UNI 8-bit VPI is there, and the overall length of the frame is 24-bit. In NNI, VPI is there of 12-bit and VCI is there of 16-bit, and overall length is of the frame is 28-bit. So in header of an ATM cell, VPI and VCIs are there of 5-bit combination and payloads are there of 48-bit. In total, the overall length of the frame is of 53-bit bytes, and these are transmitted from left to right. Means first the header will be transmitted, then payload will be transmitted. At switches, the routing table will be there. So routing table means switch knows that what are the inputs and what are the outputs connected to it. For an example, if one frame is received at interface number 1 having the VPI and VCI of 153 and 67, and that frame will be released at interface number 3 having the VPI of 140 and VCI of 92, your routing table will look like this. Now we will discuss about ATM layers. So at the end node or ATM cells, the AL, ATM and physical layers are there. At the switches, only ATM and physical layers are there. And if you transmit any signal, so basically it will follow in this way, like AL, ATM physical, then physical ATM, then ATM physical, then physical ATM, then ATM physical, then physical ATM AL. So if I subdivide the AL layers, basically you have AL1, AL2, AL3, 4, AL5. So if I discuss about AL5, so your AL5 will have data packets up to 65,535 bytes. AL5 provides the similar services as of AL34. Basically, AL34 includes a range of services for variable rate data or bit stream. It is suitable for both connection oriented, that is asynchronous traffic, as well as connectionless traffic. These ATM cells consist of 4-byte header. So this AL5, it was originally named Simple and Efficient Adoption Layer. It is used in a number of areas like Internet Protocol, that is IP, over the ATM, Ethernet over the ATM, and switched megabyte data services. So basically, data packet size is up to 65,535 byte in this AL5. So this is all about ATM. So in this lecture, basically we have covered these 4 topics, that is telephone network, cable network, SONET and ATM. Thank you.